Hi there, my name is Saman Shahi and I'm a composer and musician based in Toronto, Canada. This video is part of a series providing beginner to intermediate composers with some basic guidelines to improve their craft and creative abilities. Although I want to make these videos short and to the point, I'll be sure to add additional resources for learning at the end. In this episode, I want to share ways that you can make your scores and parts look cleaner, more legible, and ready for a professional setting. So without further ado, let's jump right in. What beginner composers oftentimes miss is that your parts and scores make the first impression on people who are going to perform and program your music. So a clutter-free and clean score can already put your music miles ahead of others before they even have a chance to listen to it. First and foremost, a composer needs to pay attention to the way the music is spaced out throughout the page. A typical page of music should consist of a very balanced amount of information, which is music, and space between them. Too much music and information crammed into a single page can often make it very difficult to read and follow. You would need enough space between different staves in music so the eye can breathe, and also leave enough space for making notes. Another key thing for individual parts or solo pieces is that the composer needs to pay attention to page turns. Now, I know a lot of musicians use iPads and tablets for turning pages, but a lot of people, including myself, who also use iPads, still use their finger for turning pages, so that's something to keep in mind. Another key point to pay attention to is where the breaks in the staves, systems, and also pages happen. This could indicate a new section in the piece, or a key change, or a time signature change, or anything of that nature. By giving the eye an opportunity to shift to a new line or page for a new section or idea, you're making your music much easier to follow. So, as an example, let's take a quick look at this sheet of music. So if you look at this first example, immediately you'll see that there's way too much music on this one page. This is obviously a piano quartet, so every system has quite a lot of information on it. So I would probably not put more than 2 staves on each page. As you can see, for example, the violin and the viola are clashing, the dynamic marks are clashing with the staff lines and with each other. The piano part is certainly going into the territory of the cello. The systems are also far too close to each other. And as you can see, the octave signs in the final system are also clashing with the dynamic marks. So this is a very, very, very messy thing. The pianissimo in bar between bar 19 and 20, the pianissimo is on the bar line. The crescendo diminuendos are oftentimes clashing with either other dynamic signs or with other information on the page. This would be a very, very bad and poor score to give your performer. They would not be happy about it. Now, let's look at another example that would be slightly cleaner. So this is the same music. Obviously, the third staff I had to push to the next page. But if you pay attention, you'll see that I have actually created more space. So the first staff is actually now further down. Each instrument has its own very clean and clear territory. So nothing is even coming close to the information that one of the other instruments is reading. The piano part has quite a lot more space now. There are no clashes and collisions between dynamic marks, crescendo diminuendos, and everything is just looking like a lot easier to read, and that's the point. And if a performer or a group gets this score, they're going to be much happier reading it. They're going to be able to actually take notes, make a little corrections or anything like that, because performers need space to make notes, and I think as composers we sometimes forget that. So this second example is much better. Once we take care of the aesthetics of your score, we need to make sure that you have correct engraving and notational practices. This includes, but is not limited to, the following: correct rhythmic notation, clear accidental notation, clear use of dynamic signs and articulations. Now, each of these items could be easily a 20 to 30 minute video on their own. I'll be sure to share some resources for each of these at the end of the video. But for the time being, let's look at these examples. So if you look at this first example, we have a melody 4/4 time. So the way it's written in the first measure is quite confusing because we don't know where the main beats lie, and showing principal beats in your music is very, very important, especially if it's syncopated or rhythms are challenging. We really need to see where the principal beats are. So in this case, beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4. And if that means using a lot of tied notes, then be it. Looking at the first measure, that's actually quite difficult to read and to know exactly how long those notes are because there's no context around them as to how they relate to a 4/4 time. Now let's look at the second example. So now this is in 9/8. So a 9/8 time signature consists of 3 dotted quarter notes. That means that when I see a piece of music, those 3 dotted quarter notes need to be clearly shown to me. And in the first example, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a half note, and I'm seeing a quarter note, and I'm seeing 3/8 notes. So for the most part, the latter part of the measure actually is showing me the 3/8 notes, which is good. But the half note and the quarter note is very confusing. I don't know exactly how long that half note is in a context of a 9/8. So in the second example, again, now that you see, now you can see where the principal beats are. So that the quarter note is tied to an 8th note, and then it goes to a quarter note. So now that's so much clearer where that quarter note happens and exactly how long that half note is. Now this last example concerns accidental notation, and that's something that, especially with the atonal music or extended tonality or jazz or anything that uses a lot of chromaticism, it's of great use for composers. And sometimes composers don't quite know how to notate things in the most effective way possible. So if you look at the first example, for instance, the first measure, you see that we have a G sharp going to a D flat and the C flat and then A sharp. That's just really difficult to read. So one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that the interval that we're seeing should really reflect the interval that we're playing. So G sharp to D is actually a perfect 4th, but because on the page it looks like a perfect 5th or a 5th of some kind, it really plays a mental trick on you. So it kind of makes things difficult. Or C flat to A sharp, it looks like a 3rd, while it's actually a minor 2nd. So the way we can make this a little bit less confusing is to unify all these intervals. For example, we can make the D flat and the C flat a C sharp and a B natural. That way it just becomes easier to read. And then we get to this chromatic thing, which is a G flat to G natural, E flat to E natural. So again, those could easily just be F sharp to G or D sharp to E. That just makes it easier. So especially when you have chromatic scale type things, I often see that composers write them as flat natural, when it just could be sharp to the next note, sharp to the next note, just making everybody's lives a little bit easier. Many composers simply refuse to pay attention to any of these very important details, and unbeknownst to them, they're actually sabotaging their careers because performers have to work so much harder to get this music ready. Now remember, the more you think of your performer when you're writing your piece, the more likely it is that they're going to perform it and also advocate for your work in the future. Here are some books to check out if you want to learn more about what we just discussed. Behind Bars, The Definitive Guide to Music Notation, Elaine Gould. Berklee Contemporary Music Notation, Jonathan Feist. That's it for this episode and also for this series. My hope was to provide a very basic framework for a beginner composer to elevate their practice. There's of course so much more to learn, and no matter where we all are in our careers, we're all students of this craft. I'm sincerely hoping that these videos have proven helpful to some of you. I would love to hear your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions for future series in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with friends who you think might enjoy it. Thanks again for tuning in, and see you soon.